Hi guys, it's KD here and welcome to another video talking about 1v1 Huns, and today I want to talk to you about the market. So the market, what is it and what does it do? So the market is something that you can build straight away at the beginning of the game to give you a gold advantage over your opponent. This can be pretty significant in terms of actually building this and being able to sell food and wood and even stone for added gold, because it means that you can produce more paladins, more cavalry archers at the beginning of the game, and technically even more rams, potentially more Tarkans, more trebuchets than your opponent to deal more damage to them at the beginning of the game. Market is really powerful in terms of being able to eliminate opponents. It's one of those things that if you play a non-market strategy, you can spend a lot of time working out how to actually beat someone who uses market, because it can be much harder to play it that way around. You're essentially playing against a brute force right at the beginning of the game, which ultimately, if you can stave off using market and get very proficient in using a non-market strategy, potentially you come out better than the other opponent, because you haven't used as much food, you haven't used as much wood, and therefore as you start to gain gold, you don't have to worry so much about economy, and you can just end up being a powerhouse back against your opponent. However, for someone like myself, as someone who's played the game for many years, I actually prefer market. It fits my playstyle. I'm aggressive. It's what I do. And you will see that there are other players in the community, namely the number one at the moment, Orcut, is a huge user of the market. And that's not just, pick and choose. That's him consistently using market. Because he understands, like many, that using the market in the correct way and gaining gold more so than your opponent and playing the smarter game can actually allow you to have a huge advantage, which is not only just used at the beginning of the game but can be carried through to the long game. So let's just talk about when to use market first of all. So market should be used at the beginning of the game if you're looking to take the advantage over your opponent before he has a chance to build the market, and it should be taken into consideration about the distance from your town centre to the enemy's town centre. So what do I mean by that? I mean about how many screens width it is between you and them. So in this example, for example, 1, 2, 3 screens length, but you will have occasions when that is far fewer, perhaps even just 2 screen lengths between you and your opponent. And in those instances you may wish to reconsider using market at the beginning of the game in favour of the fact that speed, getting output of units right at the beginning of the game might be able to take down more villagers than your opponent. So say for example this gold pile here where there was a berry bush, that does happen where you have town centres as close as that. It may well be that you can output paladins taking out villagers and therefore starting to gain an advantage in terms of unit output and therefore crushing your opponent. And this is something that I've had experience in, where I've built the market and been run over because I'm actually closer. I didn't take into account how close the opponent was to me, and they've managed to output units faster because they didn't spend time trying to build a market at the beginning of the game. So that's a little overview about when. So you want to try, and if you're going to use it, you want to try and use it earlier rather than later, simply because then you're going to secure it. So what does that look like? So at the beginning of the game you're going to have your 3 villagers, and you're going to take one of those off and build a market, and you're going to use the other 2 to build a stable. Now that is one variance, but there are other variances to this as well. So what you could do is you could take your villagers and you could do 2 onto market and 1 onto a stable. Or you could do 3 villagers onto a market at the beginning and none initially onto any other structures, but when it gets perhaps over 50 or 75%, you could then start breaking off certain villagers to look at building other structures around it so that you're in preparation for when the scout comes in, etc. It does take a little bit of practice, and there are going to be times when you're going to lose villagers at the beginning of the game to the enemy scout, because they're going to pick off those villagers before you have a chance to get even your first stable up perhaps. So I'd say for beginners, you know, maybe just trying to incorporate market as your third or fourth or fifth structure, and not trying to race for it necessarily straight away. But it is a very, very powerful tool. So that's when, and then that's you know, actually how to do it right at the beginning of the game. But I also want to talk to you about, you know, how much you should actually invest in market as well. So if you click on the market, you want to hold. I appreciate the AI sold quite a lot of resources because that's what they do. But you want to hold down the shift button, and then you want to click on the particular resource that you're looking to sell. Now there's sort of three sort of values, I suppose you could sell that sort of come under different umbrellas. So the first would be like a hard sell from the market. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Huge sells from the market, and to be honest with you, you know, it's going to give you massive amounts of gold. But it is also going to deplete your resources. So you, and I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but you are going to think about, you know, early economy to try and rebalance the fact that you've spent so many resources right at the beginning of the game. But that is one of the most powerful market strategies out there, really. If you wanted to go for the sort of the mid-range, so that's what I do. I do a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on wood, and this is holding shift at all times. 1, 2, 3, 4 on food, and then 1, 2, 3 on stone. So I go for a 5, 4, 3 setup when I sell market. Now I just go for middle of the range. Again, still very, you know, very much depletes resources very quickly, but it's down to you and preference. And you know, I'd say practice this, see how it works with your style. Or you've got the third, which might be something like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Or possibly you know, 3, so either 3 on wood holding shift, or 3 on food, or perhaps 2, and then again 3 or 2 depending on stone. So that's a very kind of soft sell, and you're just kind of taking off the cream of the crop, you know, off of the top of it, just skimming the ones that are going to give you the most, because you're always going to gain more from the first parts that you sell, because of the way that it trades out. But you know, that is something of consideration, and it's whether or not you feel it incorporates into your style. I do hear a lot of players in the community thinking that market is almost kind of a cheat, and you get this kind of mindset from players of, well, you know, you used market, lol, you know, you didn't, you know, kind of trying to discredit you a little bit. But actually, you know, this is a strategy game, and it's part of the game. So you know, at the end of the day, your objective is to win. And you're going to do that by any means necessary, right? So if you can do that by tiering up in gold, then why not? You know, you wouldn't try and grab gold from around the map unless you knew that it was important to the longer, well, even the early as well, but the longer game. And of course, market can also be just as advantageous. It's still gold that is freely available on the map, and it's down to you as to whether or not you're going to take it from your opponent. So very much worth considering. And then, you know, when I talked about build order in a previous video, I talked about sort of having, you know, 4 stables, 5 barracks, and 7 archery ranges. When you actually sell more, you have more gold, and therefore the distribution can be more. So you can actually build perhaps 5 stables. So personally, when I do a market strategy, I do 5 stables, I do 5 to 6 barracks, depending, and then I do upwards of 9, sometimes even upwards of 12 archery ranges, depending on just what level of output I'm looking at. But I'd say my standard build would be 5 stables, up to 6 barracks, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 archery ranges. And although my initial output will actually be slower, you know, when we talked about in my previous video on speed and control, getting 100 villages, that would be insane, 100 units within 4 minutes. You're not going to necessarily always achieve that in the same way, but your output overall is going to be faster in terms of refresh rate of, you know, units have died, but you're outputting, you know, you've got structures queued with loads of units about to be prepped, about to come out. And they're all going to be sort of heavy gold units that are going to last longer. And don't be afraid as well to go back round your stables after you've filled them to the max with paladins, and start to fill them up again with more. because it is very, very powerful to do so. But I guess this sort of gives you an overview of market, and that's really what I'm going for here. So I don't want to take it too more in depth than that. But I would just say, play around with it, see if market's for you, see if it's something that you enjoy. Does it fit your play style? If not, are you better as a non-market player? If you are, great. Keep playing that. Keep watching videos. Keep playing against people who use and don't use market, and start to get a feel for what you enjoy. Start to learn how much you should actually sell from the market if you're going to take it, or indeed keeping an eye that if you do build a market, how much your opponent's actually taken from it, and therefore how hard he might hit you if you chose to just build it and see. And also, get to grips with understanding about how to stop a market push. When it comes to actually building up on your front, so if you're doing a non-market strategy, it's all about realizing that the advantage from a market, someone who uses market, is going to be right at the beginning of the game. So they are literally going to be building up a sledgehammer that they're going to try and smash you in the face with, okay? But the other person who doesn't use market is more about trying to mitigate that sledgehammer, and actually try to slow that down until such time that they gain an advantage and actually end up with a bigger sledgehammer than they do, simply because they've actually got wooden food, quite substantial wooden food that they've reserved, and as soon as they've tiered up and got the gold advantage that's just as similarly deadly as the player with the market, that they can start to repel. And the way to slow down someone who uses a market is to essentially, with a lot of speed, build forward castles. So in this instance, say the enemy's here, as a non-market, you might want to put down. Appreciate I've gone and sold a lot of stone in the examples that I've used in that game. But you might want to put down, sort of, so as your waves are coming in, if you can just imagine your waves are coming in past this gold spot, for example. Say, for example, you wanted to take this part of the map, and I'd always say, by the way, you want at least, in fact, I've done that wrong, you want at least a screen's distance away before you start building castles away from your base if you're trying to do a non-market strategy to try and slow someone down. But you might want as many as like 5 castles, probably more like 4, but as many as 5 castles out in the front that are building as your waves are coming through, because as a non-market player you may expect to get pushed back by a market player, and then it's about putting trash all around that, like siege workshops all around your castles and stuff like that. And I'm not even kidding, using quite a few, maybe not quite as many as that, I've probably gone a little bit insane. But the point is, you do want to build a lot of trash around your castles, and the idea is to try and slow them down as much as possible, because for the main, the person that you're playing against who uses market is not probably going to do anything other than try and kill your army and just go straight down the middle. Fewer players will actually try and then use that army to go around the map and do a dent to your resources, which actually can work out quite advantageous to do it that way. But the majority of players, myself included, will also just go down the middle and try and wipe out the army, and then their base as part of that, if they can. Of course, once you've got the heart of their base, you've often destroyed them anyway, and you've won the game. But this will all serve to slow down someone who's got market and allow you then to gain gold from around the map. And you've got to think about gold. If you're playing a non-market strategy or indeed a market strategy, where are these gold points right at the beginning of the game, looking for them and then grabbing them and trying to maintain a gold advantage, not just at the beginning of the game but longer into the game as well. So I've covered off an extra aspect there that I wasn't intending to, but it was one of those ones that popped into my mind and I wanted to talk to you guys about as well. But what I would say is, if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Really have enjoyed input that's been coming through. As always, guys, if you can like, if you can comment, fantastic. Really appreciate it. I'm so grateful to you for doing so. And I hope there's something that you can take out of this video as well. Again, find me on Voobly. Let's have a chat. If you want to come and talk to me about it, great. I just want to be able to sort of share this stuff back with you guys and go from there.